Good evening, I'm Hugh Downs.
And I'm Barbara Walters, and this is 2020.
On the ABC News Magazine, 2020, with Hugh Downs and Barbara Walters.
Also, Erik Weihenmayer is a high school wrestler. Like any champion, he gives his best. He asks no favors.
Come on, you got it! You got it!
The only difference is he's blind. But to him, that's no difference at all. Bob Brown tells why Erik's is a very special. We began this program with Hugh giving some definitions that were desperate and sad. I want to try some other words now. Courage, determination. A lot of times we have trouble defining words like these, so we look for examples, people we can point to and say, you want to talk about courage? Take a look at her. You want to know what it means to never give up? Take a look at him. Well, we found someone who's an example of both of these qualities. He's a young man who has lost his sight, but not his vision. Here's Bob Brown.
Erik Weihenmayer is a 16-year-old high school wrestler from Weston, Connecticut. He has been legally blind since birth, totally blind since the age of 13. He is about to begin his first match in a Connecticut Regional High School Championship. Wrestling in the blue and yellow colors of his school, Erik is a second-year letterman. All of his teammates and opponents have sight. Erik's father, Ed Weihenmayer, watches intensely from the bleachers.
Oh, come on, you got it! You got it!
Erik will have 2 more matches after this one to determine how he places in the competition. In this first match, he pinned his opponent for a win. So, although Erik has compensated for his blindness, he has not compromised because of it, even though it meant making new adjustments at school and having to wait for his opportunity to make the wrestling team as his sight disappeared. These are home movies of Erik. For years, he had vision enough to move around freely, but doctors had warned his mother and father he would eventually lose all sight because of a rare eye disease called retinoschisis. From the beginning, he had to look closely at things to see them at all.
There was something driving him inside, which has always said, I'm going to be able to do it as well as somebody that can see, but I'm just going to have to do it a little differently. As he was losing his sight, and it was getting bad already, he insisted that he was going to take his bike down our driveway and jump off this bike ramp. And he had to be positioned right on the driveway. He didn't miss it. But then about at age 13, his sight just went very, very quickly. We started to just see that he was stumbling over some things.
Well, it just felt a little out of place.
In his first year in high school, Erik began to use a cane.
Walk in my freshman year with a white stick, and nobody knew what it was. People were like, well, why do you have a stick? And it was a little different at first. It was pretty embarrassing.
He achieved a sense of independence again when he acquired his guide dog named Wizard.
With a stick, I kind of, you look a little bit clumsy because you sometimes bump into people. But with Wizard, you move a lot faster. You stay on a straight line. It's almost like normal. Wizard likes to cruise.
Erik impressed me so much when I first met him because he was so much like a normal teenager without a disability.
Nancy Higgins was a volunteer worker at a training program for the blind when she met Erik shortly after he lost his sight.
And he has such a creative imagination that you put the two of those together, and the things that come out of his mouth, you believe that he sees what he's talking about. Once in the car, he told me to look out for the squirrel, and I put on the brakes.
He also carries a sense of humor to school.
Let him have a $1 bill.
The cashiers in the cafeteria were waiting for this line.
I thought that was a 20. All right.
Get out of here.
I can picture what Brett's wearing. A Cincinnati red shirt, a bandana.
Erik is a B student here at Weston High. He carries a Braille typewriter that allows him to take notes in class, grasping material that other students have seen laid out on a blackboard. One of the daily stops Erik and Wizard make is at the office of guidance counselor Peg Reddy, who keeps a bowl of water at hand for Wizard.
Hey.
Hey, Erik, how are you?
Pretty good.
Ah, that's a good boy. He's thirsty.
She remembers that school authorities had been afraid to let Erik wrestle as long as he had some vision left to risk, but that consideration was removed when he lost his sight.
And at that point in time, they said that he could take part in any sport he wanted to, because it didn't make any difference. And the first wrestling match we all went to, he won. And everyone in the auditorium just stood up and cheered. His mom and dad were there, and I was there. It was really very emotional.
He had qualified to make the team just as any other student would, but training was a different story.
And it was kind of hard at first because like they'd run in the hallways and I didn't know what to do at first. But they got called a treadmill, and I ran on that. But wrestling is I can be like just about like anybody else. The only thing that's different is I start like this, and with hand contact, and so I can shoot. But other than that, it's just the same.
Nice, keep going.
I'm still learning, like how people move, so I can tell where they are. Like if a person's body is down, then you know his legs are back further. And it just is kind of natural. You don't really think about it.
Come on, Erik!
Erik, you want a table?
Sure.
Erik had worked hard to adjust to the loss of his sight and win a place on the team. And then the role that wrestling played in his life took on an even deeper meaning when he and his father suffered an emotional blow for which neither was prepared. Last summer, Erik's mother died in a car accident.
He was at wrestling camp when his brother and I had to go up and tell him that his mother had died. We don't try to dwell on the sadness of it, but I'm sure in his mind that connection will always be there, that he was at wrestling camp. He said, "What are you guys doing here?" And we had to tell him.
When I wrestle or something, I think like I want to win for my mom and things like that. You kind of think, and you wonder whether she's up, like whether somehow that she's still maybe like somehow aware of me, I kind of hope that she's up there, someplace.
Many of the images and emotions he remembers have come out in poetry Erik has written. He has mastered the use of a conventional typewriter as well as a Braille keyboard, and his father read aloud for us from a poem Erik wrote about his transitions after blindness.
I drift into an imaginative world, bordering between sleep and wakefulness. Vivid dimensions of brightness flash through my soul, blanketing my life with meaningful purpose. Into my limbs it now surges, lifting my spirits high into the air, until my form disintegrates into the twilight. A seemingly faraway, long-ago cry pierces the simplicity of my domain, and I am whole again. I come back into reality. My mother stands at a window, calling me to eat. A spray of rainfall rips unmercifully upon me. I realize my lifelong limitations and swear to cast them aside. But still I know, and can never forget, I exist in a dark world.
Keep moving on the bike. Keep moving, Erik. Pull it in.
I've often thought, as a parent you have to say, why is our son, why is he the one that had to go blind? But I almost have an answer as I ask it, and I think He was born to be blind, I guess, but he was also born with a tremendous fighting spirit.
As we saw at the beginning of this story, Erik had won his first match in the Connecticut regional competition with a pin. This next match was closer. In one instance, Erik seemed to have gained an advantage worth 3 points. But he couldn't see that he was out of bounds when he made the move, and so the effort didn't count. Erik was never pinned. He would lose this match and his final one on points. But when the referee raised the hand of the other wrestler to award the decision, it's doubtful that Erik gave a second thought to what his disadvantages may have been.
He beat me, fair and square. I was disappointed in myself, I guess, but you have to learn. You can't live like in the past, like what I could have done. There's going to be things that I'm going to have to overcome my whole life. And wrestling's like one step in that. It's like you against your opponent, and that's the way life is. Just makes you feel that anything's, possible if you work hard enough and really give it everything.
That's an inspiration. It occurred to me, Bob, that one of the things that contributes to Erik's strength is the fact that he can lose as well as win.
That's exactly what he says, that if he does lose, it just makes him go out and work that much harder. And, you learn something from everyone you meet, and I think in this case, it's that what you must accept with grace, whether it's a win or a loss, and then move on. And I think that's what people like Erik are so good at teaching us.
He is something else. Thank you, Bob.